All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Game Time and Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, and it's Wednesday, so as Gerod Mayo likes to say, we are turning the page, and we got the Buffalo Bills on tap. Should be a good game down out there in Buffalo. It's going to be cold, and a lot of players talking about the atmosphere in Buffalo, always a good one. So we got that game on Sunday. We are starting the first ever 12-team college football playoff this weekend. So we are very excited for that. And we're going to go through those matchups this weekend. I have a lot of draft prospects, interesting draft prospects. So we'll make sure to talk a good amount on that as well. But we'll start with the Bills, and we'll start with that preview. And we'll start with some of the things we heard down there at Gillette today. And Barth, we've heard a lot these last few days after that Cardinals game about, questions around Gerod Mayo's job and his future and speculation about where that is going to go. Did it make you feel any more confident in Mayo, whether it's him as a coach or him as his job status, listening to players like Drake May, like a longtime captain Dietrich Wise getting to the podium today and having their head coaches back? They're saying, we believe in him. He's still a really good coach. We trust him. We trust where this vision is going. Dietrich Wise has even used unprompted the Dan Campbell comparison, which we've talked a lot about. So was that a vote of confidence to you at all in Gerod Mayo, hearing that from his players? And, he's still got the locker room here.
It's not discouraging. I don't know. You don't expect them to come out and say like, yeah, it's not working. Right. But I thought Drake May handled it really well. Like, he continues to just kind of rise above all of this and at 22 years old, be a true professional. I do still think, especially some of those longer tenure guys like Dietrich Wise, right? He has such a long-standing relationship with them going back. Played with a handful of them, has been a coach in the building for a number of years now. Like, I never expected him to lose. I never expected him to lose that group. And I don't think he's the kind of coach that loses the locker room in the sense that guys turn on him. Right.
Yeah.
I think the question is more about when it comes to execution and translating things from the practice field. Like, does he have the attention there? So, and that's not something a player is going to come out and admit he doesn't have, because that's also on the player.
Yeah.
So, no, it didn't surprise me a ton. I don't know that it changed the way I felt one way or the other. I still, coming out of that Cardinals game, feel like there is a real chance he's coaching for his job here down the stretch. And I do feel like if I had to put money on it, I think he's back next year. But I do feel like I can see the path to a one and done. I don't think that's off the table. But I don't know that anything today changed the way I felt about that massively.
Yeah. I think it's a good sign, because if you lose the locker room, like, it's over, right? And he still has the locker room. The players still kind of believe in him. But as you said, like, that's his type of style, like player friendly, as Drake even described it today. Like, you wouldn't expect him to lose the locker room. It's more of the game management and the X's and O's stuff that we're sitting out and saying, what's the deal? Right. What's the deal there? So I agree with you. Like, I still expect Gerod Mayo to be back next year, but those odds, it's not a sure thing. I would say, especially if you get, blown out these last couple games, especially we have a 4:30, so a little bit more of like a prime time-ish slot. And now we have a standalone game week 17 on Saturday. So that's, I think it was Ben Solak on ESPN. He put out a tweet the other day where it's like, these types of big decisions kind of occur after primetime or island games, right? You just saw Kirk Cousins get benched for Michael Penix. They get embarrassed on a Monday night. And even dating back to last year, like the loss in Germany, that standalone island game, 9:30 primetime-ish in the morning, was, reported as kind of the last straw for Bill Belichick. So it's set up where things could, keep going south here for Gerod Mayo. But yeah, I would still, I'd put my money on him coming back if I was a betting man there. Do you like the Mike Vrabel rumors that are going around, though? Would he be your guy if they do move on?
Yeah, it's him or Flores. I think that there's draws to both. I'm not as high on Ben Johnson as other people. I also don't think Ben Johnson would come here.
Yeah.
So, I just looking at the landscape of it, I think getting somebody with head coaching experience is at the top of my list. If they are going to move on from Gerod Mayo, as renowned as Ben Johnson is for his offensive system, I don't think another first-year head coach is the answer. I don't. I think you want somebody who's done it before, who's built a program, who's run a program. Mike Vrabel obviously did that and got the shaft too soon in Tennessee because they couldn't find a quarterback, and John Robinson kind of screwed him on the A.J. Brown trade. Brian Flores got a really raw deal in Miami. I would argue he did a better job in 3 years than Mike McDaniel has.
Probably.
You can tell me if that's a hot take, Brian. You know how I feel about McDaniel. I don't want to get caught in the emotions of it, but what is he, 3-15 against teams over 500?
Flores made the playoffs once, right?
I think his last year. So that's the one thing. McDaniel did get them to the playoffs.
Was he the game where remember that game in Pittsburgh where they had to play like their backup quarterback or something? And they were like, that's when kind of the cold weather Dolphins might have started because they were freezing up there in Pittsburgh.
So he did not make the playoffs.
Okay.
But he finished over 500 twice. He had a 10-9 win season and went 24-25. Mike McDaniel has made the playoffs twice. He's lost badly both times. But let's also not forget, again, 3-15 against teams over 500. Mike McDaniel came in here against the Tom Brady Patriots and beat them in a game that mattered to the Patriots. It's like that was a massively derailing game. Brian Flores got the short end of the stick in Miami because he refused to tank. But he built a program there. He built a program, and I think if he'd been given more time, maybe the Dolphins are what the Bills are at this point. And I know they don't have Josh Allen, but I think they were trending in the right direction. Flores also coming from Minnesota. As I've said, I think very highly of Kevin O'Connell. You're obviously not drawing Kevin O'Connell with him, but does somebody like Josh McCown come? Does somebody like Keenan McCardell come? Like he has that Rolodex offensively. I also wouldn't rule out, and I know people are probably pulling their hair out, know they need an offensive coach. Both these guys that you're naming are defensive. Yes, but the offensive backgrounds for both are strong. Again, with Flores, you have the guys in Minnesota who have done a good job, and ideally you build a pipeline, behind your offensive coordinator that you're going to have a replacement. And there's been some rumors out there that Mike Vrabel might be tied in with Josh McDaniels, which would be a new playbook for Drake May. But obviously we know McDaniels can develop quarterbacks. I also wouldn't rule out if they have a new coach, especially if it's Flores, Alex Van Pelt maybe staying and working with that coach. I think there'd be some moving pieces there. When I say I wouldn't rule it out, that's not reporting. That's like me saying, like, if I was in that spot and I was a new coach, I would consider keeping him on.
I mean, Vrabel was just in Cleveland, right? So he was familiar with that Stefanski offense that Van Pelt was just at.
And
so maybe
Flores is adjacent to it in Minnesota.
And I think one of the other reported names with Vrabel, it was like Josh McDaniels and Tommy Rees, who is in Cleveland as I think he's their tight end pass game coordinator coach right now. So
I'm a little less excited about Tommy Rees having watched him in Alabama, but
yeah,
like I don't think
that tree that maybe opens the door for Van Pelt to stay along and
sure, absolutely, yeah. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get, I don't know about another full year of Mayo. Like if he comes back year or two, he's on the hot seat week 1.
Yep.
But Vrabel's going to get hired this cycle. Flores, he still has that pending lawsuit against the league, so his situation isn't quite as clear, but he doesn't seem like somebody who's going to get hired mid-season. So we'll see how it plays out. But that would be, and I mean, that was my list last year. My list last year was Vrabel in order, Vrabel, Flores, Mayo. So I'm still on that list. Not much has changed. I also had Slowick. It was like, if they're really going to go outside the organization, offensive coach, I've probably cooled off on Bobby Slowick a little bit. And again,
not a great year for him.
I go back to, I don't think a first-time head coach, offense or defense, is the answer.
Yep. Experience. If they're going to go a new route, that should be what they're looking for. So I would take Vrabel. I obviously like Vrabel. Josh McDaniels worries me a little bit, just how that pairs with Drake May. Not only the offense, but then like the language is as sharp of a 180 as you could do from what they're doing now from that to McDaniels. So that could be a lot for Drake May. I love the pairing of Flores and you get Josh McCown to come with them. So you get a little bit of that, Kevin O'Connell offense. Josh McCown, worked with Drake May at Myers
He was
Park
his high
down
school
there.
coach, right?
Yeah, in North Carolina at high school. So they have a relationship. So that would be a really good pairing, but maybe they're, available next year and we can do this whole thing because again, I think we both expect Gerod to probably come back here next year. But yeah, on the hot seat week 1. So this week his focus is on the Buffalo Bills. He was asked about some of those questions and reports that the Crafts may have given him that job assurance, and he just didn't really want to talk about it. He said his focus was on Josh Allen and the Bills. Barth, would you like to apologize to Evan and I now for our MVP picks before the season of Josh Allen, or would you like to wait until he actually gets the award when the season ends?
I mean, I just think the fact that the whole Josh Allen MVP thing hyped up after the Bills lost is so perfect. Because again, none of you get my Josh Allen take. It's not that he's not a good player. It's the fact that you're not allowed to acknowledge the 52 other players on the team or any coach he's ever had is playing a role in him being great. And yeah, it's fitting the last 2 weeks. He's literally done everything himself. He's scored pretty much every touchdown for them. So I guess he's finally living up to the way you people talk about him. But that was it is a solo show at this point. And okay, fine. He finally lived up to that. But the idea that, you can't give Amari Cooper credit for the lateral player. You can't say not Brian Flores. You can't say Brian Daboll did a good job developing him because it takes away from Josh Allen and can't dare do that. That's the take. And no, I didn't think he was going to win MVP. I thought they lost too much talent. I thought it was going to be Lamar Jackson, who, by the way, still should be in the conversation.
He's still
as really should Joe Burrow. As bad as the Bengals are, Joe Burrow should be in the MVP conversation. But Josh Allen lost and everybody got all giddy and he's going to run away with it.
So do you have any faith that this Patriots defense can stop him, or like, what the hell are they going to have to do?
Yeah, it's going to be,
it's a chance.
It's going to be ugly. I just don't see. I mean, he has a hair across his ass for the Patriots. That's been true for years now. Like, I think Bill Belichick criticized him in that production meeting years ago. And ever since then, I'm going to guess he heard about it. And he just locks in. I thought Gerod Mayo was right today when he talked about where Josh Allen changed was when he started taking a profit, because the book on him for years was, play deep, and eventually he's got to get impatient and chuck you one. And he started doing that against the Patriots about a year before everybody else. That 2021 season, he played pretty recklessly, except the 2 games against the Patriots. And I think that's when it clicked. Right. Because he hates the Patriots. And I expect him to do the same again. And they can't even necessarily, even dropping deep can't take away the deep stuff. I'm not as impressed with the Bills receivers as some people. I think Keon Coleman's very hot and cold. Amari Cooper's a good player, but he's not what he was. I think Khalil Shakir is probably their best receiver. I think he's slept on. But it's going to be, he just hits at every area that they've especially struggled in this year.
Yep. So how do you want to match up with those wide receivers? Because, Coleman and Cooper, they're kind of these bigger guys. So maybe that opens the door for more Alex Austin, which we've been seeing. Shakir, it kind of seems like a Jones's matchup, although, Marcus Jones lands on the injury report today with a hip injury. And then the tight ends, Kincaid and Knox are kind of a big part of their passing attack, especially on third down. Josh Allen really looks for those guys. And Kyle Duggar missed practice today, who we know, he's been kind of a mess, on the field. So how are you trying again to trying to match this up to slow it down?
Yeah, so it's Gonzalez on Cooper. I think that's pretty clear. He's shadowing him there. The Jones is on Shakir, like you said. You keep him in the slot, and then they have 2 big physical outside guys in Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman, and I don't need to see whichever Jones isn't on Shakir on that guy, because that's a mismatch that the Bills are going to pick apart all day. Again, this is a game where Alex Austin should play more. I don't know how often they have Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman on the field at the same time. I don't think it's a lot.
I don't think often.
When they do, I don't know what you do when they do, because you're going to have a mismatch on one of those guys. But, well, I would imagine if it's that, maybe Amari Cooper is getting a breather, and then it's Gonzalez on probably Coleman, and you put Alex Austin on Mac Hollins. But yeah, I think it's a Khalil Shakir game. Like, he's going to be in that Isaiah McKenzie role that they've struggled with, and they're going to pick him apart.
Hopefully Marcus Jones is good to go. We were talking down there at practice today. We're like, it's perfect matchup for Marcus Jones. Then we get out there and he's not there. He took Chris Mason had the clip on Twitter. He took a huge shot, Marcus Jones, on that onside kick to end the Cardinals game. And then he was on the injury report with a hip injury. So not sure if that's where it all stemmed from. And then, as people in the chat saying, they have two really good tight ends, Kincaid, Ashton says,
didn't even get to that.
Is going to cook Duggar. We were also saying at practice, maybe if they how would it be encouraging if Gerod Mayo and DeMarcus Covington pulled something out and said, okay, on third downs, money downs, when Josh Allen wants to go to Dalton Kincaid, what if we put Christian Gonzalez on him, and then Alex Austin can take Amari Cooper, and then Marcus Jones or Jonathan Jones is on the speedster Shakir. Like, throw them some curveball, put Christian Gonzalez on their tight end, take the guy that Josh Allen wants to go to the most. So that would be maybe an interesting kind of wrinkle blueprint that they could try to throw at them here with their best cover corner. Didn't they do something like that with Steph Gilmore in years past against
And I mean, I go back to like the original version of that game plan was Aqib Talib on Tony Gonzalez right down in Atlanta. So they could. In the past, they've gotten, I feel at times they've overcomplicated it and spun themselves this year. And if you try to do that against Josh Allen, it's just not going to go well. Maybe that's like a third down matchup thing where you put Gonzalez on the tight end. But I'm almost at the point where you don't overcomplicate it and you just try to play it across the board and hold on tight. And, if you start spinning the dial and guys are out of position, he wants to hunt big plays, and he'll check it down all day. Like, he'll do this now. He wouldn't do this in the past. He'll check it down all day and methodically march down the field, especially against you. I'm okay with that. If you start scrambling it and they start going big play, big play, big play, now you're in what essentially becomes a more challenging version of the Rams game.
Yep. Especially with all, Joe Brady's done a really good job with kind of their misdirection and all that sort of stuff. And we've seen the communication issues in the Patriots secondary the last few weeks. So maybe try to keep things a little simpler. That would probably be like a third down wrinkle if they do want to get a little creative with Christian Gonzalez there. So maybe we'll see something there.
Meanwhile, as doom and gloom as we are, did you know this isn't the biggest spread in the NFL this week?
Really?
I was very surprised to see that.
It's 14, right? The spread?
14. Packers at Saints is 14.5. And that's lopsided, but it's in New Orleans too. So that's a team getting 14.5 at home in the NFL. You never see that.
Is Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler starting? Because that would explain it if it's Jake Haener.
I don't know, but even still, is Drake May worth alone that many points?
I would say it's just Josh Allen versus this defense. Like, even if Drake May puts up 25 points, like, would you be surprised if Buffalo drops 45 on you and covers a 2-touchdown, 2.5?
I guess that's true, and it's Toyotathon Jordan Love, so they could pull away from the Saints pretty easily. Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about.
I don't know. I was kind of surprised when I saw that today.
Especially because the Saints are at home. You usually don't see that. Although weren't the Panthers just home favorites?
That's the thing. Like, they're at home.
Yeah.
No, it was the Panthers were home favorites, but there was, I think the Giants at home were like,
oh yeah,
like 16.5 against the Ravens or something like that.
I think that,
and I don't think they covered that, right? Did they cover that?
No, Lamar threw like 5 touchdowns. It was, let me try to pull it up. They won by
Yeah, it was a 21-point game.
Yeah, and the spread was 16.5.
21.
So yeah, they covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait.
But
Hang on. Oh, yeah, they did.
yep.
Oh, are the
Yeah,
Packers at home? Somebody in the comments said the Packers at home. I thought when I was reading it today, it said, oh, all right, the Packers are at home. It's a dome team going outdoors.
okay, that
All
makes
right.
more sense.
That makes more. I still think Patriots a bigger spread, but yeah, that makes more sense.
2 14-point spreads in 1 week, though. Go NFL.
Again, the product. Where are you at with the product? I know Felger wants to talk about Falcons Raiders being more watchable than Clemson LSU. I don't know, Brian. I'll take that Clemson LSU game every day over both of those Monday night games, frankly. I'll take it over both of them. And one of those is a division game. Those are supposed to be the best games. I went in thinking it might be a good game. I will take the ACC championship over that drivel any day.
That was rough. The ghost of Kirk Cousins versus Desmond Ritter should not see the light
time, baby.
of primetime TV. Yeah, Michael Penix, that's going to be fun to watch. That'll be interesting. But we'll get to college football in a second. Anything else with that Patriots defense? I mean, we didn't even talk about James Cook in the run game. We know the Patriots run defense issues. Like Josh Allen might not even have to be a factor if he didn't want to in this game. They could probably just hand the ball off to James Cook all day and feast in that area. But anything with that or anything else with this Patriots defense going against Josh Allen to wrap that side of the ball up?
Yeah, honestly, that's a good point. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't throw a ton. Maybe they go out there and it's, we want to let Josh Allen hunt his MVP, but it's going to be really cold. It's going to be windy. It's against an inferior opponent. Like the Patriots play. How many times did we see the Patriots play this game? And it was take care of business, get out healthy, right? Shorten the game, keep that clock running, just get in, get out, do what you need to do. If the Bills are smart, that's what they'll do. It'll be, probably come out throwing early, get up, and then final 45 minutes, you're just running the ball and keeping the clock churning up 2-3 scores. Like if I'm the Bills, that's the game I'm playing. Yeah. I don't need to unleash. Now, again, it's a cocky organization. Do they try to unleash Josh Allen and stat pad and all that? Maybe. But if I'm them, I'm coming out running the ball. I'm coming out and just let's keep this clock moving and let's get this thing over with and get out of here healthy.
Yep. And James Cook has been pretty good this year. So maybe he'll be in our Prize Picks lineup. And speaking of Prize Picks, before we go to the offensive side of the football, you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win 1,000 times your cash this season, all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Barth and I submit our Patriots lineups every game day. We'll do it at the end of the show today to wrap up our preview. You can extend it to the rest of the league. Thursday Night Football tomorrow. I think it's Bo Nix and those Broncos going to LA to take on Justin Herbert. So early preview of Patriots next week opponent. And you can make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. And again, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Going to the offensive side of the football for the Patriots, we talked, Monday after the Cardinals game. The game plan for Alex Van Pelt and Drake May was a lot of these short passes. His average air yard per attempt at halftime was negative. He threw about 7 screen passes, and you get why they want to do it. They don't trust this offensive line. But would you like to see them, you saw the second half when he airs it out a little bit more. I think his average air yards in the second half was right around 12 yards. So you see him push the ball downfield a little bit more. I get it was against these base coverages. The game was pretty much undecided, garbage time, but you saw the success a little bit more when they let Drake May push it. So they might have to just because they might be trailing in this one and they might just have to throw the ball. But would you like that approach out of the gate here against Buffalo to kind of put the ball in Drake May's hands, and let's see what the rookie can do and try to keep you competitive for as long as possible.
Absolutely. Like, look, if you're going to have a shot at winning this game, you got to come out and be aggressive. You got to take the game to them. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to be this tug of war back and forth. Like, you got to get them on their heels early. If you can get a lead and kind of force them into an uncomfortable situation, that's what you have to do. So I'd absolutely let it rip with Drake May. Not just throw the ball. I'd let him run the ball too. And I know they don't want to do that, but they don't have tape on it or anything. I'd mix one of those. That would be in my opening 15-play script if they're really coming out and trying to win this game. So yeah, they need to be more aggressive. Will they be? I don't know. The offensive line, if it changes, all you're getting is a guy who's never snapped a game at the college or pro level coming in at center. So they might be conservative again. And they may have the opinion of, they may come in with the approach of like, this quarterback's our future. We're 3-11. Let's just get out of here healthy. They may have that kind of same approach as the Bills. But if they're really going to go for it, you got to come out guns blazing.
Yeah. Let him throw. Let Drake cook. That's your best chance for success. It wasn't a coincidence. Again, it was garbage time, but I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 times they found the end zone, it came after Drake pushed the ball downfield, and then in the red area, he makes a play with his legs, out of structure, playground mode, to score points. Because the longer this team is on the field and they try to go on these methodical long drives of 7 yards to Hunter Henry, 5-yard slant to Kayshon Boutte, and going like this, just longer time for a ball to go off a receiver's hands and get intercepted, or a holding penalty to knock him back. So just let Drake, put the ball in Drake's hands. That's kind of your best way, I think, to try and stay competitive, is let him make plays. But they do have to protect him. You mentioned that offensive line. Are you expecting a change there? It didn't look that way in practice today, but as we've seen with this team, like Thursday and Friday, they can shuffle things up on the offensive line. So are you expecting maybe Cole Strange or Caden Wallace? They have an open roster spot if they're ready to activate him. Are you expecting, or would you push for a change up on that offensive line?
I think we're going to see it just because Ben Brown couldn't get the ball snapped last week. And I also think that they want to see Cole Strange at center. I also wonder if we get Caden Wallace at right tackle. Gerod Mayo was asked today about filling that open roster spot and kind of said like, we're not going to do it today, which leads me to believe that it's earmarked for somebody. Caden Wallace would be the guy to be activated. So I think we're going to see changes. I don't know how much change in terms of the production those changes will lead to. I think it's going to look more or less the same. You hope Caden Wallace gives you a little bit more at right tackle. I think outside of clean snaps, Cole Strange is more or less going to give you what he gives you at center. But I even if the personnel changes, like it's still, and I could see too, Brian, to kind of put these 2 points together. They come out wanting to sling it. Drake May gets hit early, and then suddenly it's back in the shell.
They turtle up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. So we'll see what's in store on the offensive line. Any changes you expect to shake out with those skill players? Like we were pushing for more Antonio Gibson. Javon Baker did return to practice today with that concussion, which he said he suffered with a car accident. So that was, that kind of mystery on a day off concussion. It was a car accident, but he was, luckily and back out there practicing today. We would like to see more of him over Kayshon Boutte, I think. So are you expecting anything with that group, or want to see anything out of that group here to in Buffalo?
No, I'm not. It would be nice to see a little more, and I don't even know how it would go, but it'd be nice to see Javon Baker, just see what you have. But the fact that the coaches have talked about not seeing what they want to see from him in practice, and he misses a full week, it's not his fault, but he misses a full week, right? That probably doesn't help his progress. I still think Jalen Polk's like playing a sneaky amount. It just doesn't feel like it because he's not doing anything. So maybe he takes some snaps from Kayshon Boutte. We see Kendrick Bourne more at the X, but I think the receiver rotation is more or less what it's going to be at this point.
Yep. All right, and then we'll wrap up with some special teams. We're still on Joey Sly watch after another missed kick. And then kind of the big one, Marcus Jones, if he's out, what are they going to do at punt returner? They did sign Alex Erickson today, who has some punt returning experience. Finally got a Wisconsin Badger. Go Badgers, and back in the locker room. So maybe he gets a call up, or it's just, Pop Douglas has been the backup. So we'll see what happens at punt returner. But what are you looking at in that special teams unit? Another Buffalo kick return. We've seen those go both ways the last few years. But what are you looking at? David wants to know, will they activate the practice squad kicker, or what's going on in that unit?
If they're going to go returner, I wonder if Alex Erickson, who was signed to the practice squad today, obviously was a different kick return, but led the NFL in kick return yards as a rookie. And a guy that was a return specialist for the Bengals. That was a few years ago, but he was. I wonder if maybe he gets a look if Marcus Jones is out. Demario Douglas has been the backup returner, but if they're worried about long-term injuries these last few games, like we've kind of seen them with Drake, Pop Douglas is another guy that I think you'd worry about in that regard. So maybe it's Antonio Gibson. Maybe we finally see Isaiah Bolden. I wouldn't sleep on maybe Alex Erickson getting a rep as well.
Yeah. And JaMychal Hasty, who's been one of their two primary kick returners, also was a DNP with an ankle injury, I believe. So they could be down their top kick returner and top punt returner. So you're going to have to see some shake up. And it's interesting that they signed, Erickson today, who has that experience. So maybe he gets the promotion. Jason wants to see in the chat Bolden too. We all do. I don't think it's going to happen. Talking to the coaches, it just doesn't. Even talking to Bolden at times, it doesn't seem something that's on the coaching staff's radar, which is disappointing, but it doesn't seem like that's going to he's going to get a shot at some point. So that is Patriots at Bills. We can wrap up this preview and then with our prize picks lineup, and then we can talk about some college football and some draft prospects that'll be taking the stage this week. So anyone you're thinking specifically for this Patriots
we can just take more on whatever on Josh Allen.
Drake May is 207.5 pass yards. He might just get that in garbage time.
He might get that in garbage. That's not a bad. All right, we'll go more on that.
Okay, so let's pull up Josh Allen. He's 239.5 pass yards. Josh Allen, 44.5 rush yards, 2.5 pass touchdowns, or an interception.
Do they have like pass plus rush yards, or because the 244, it's just again like if they go in that shell, if they just decide we're going to run the ball and get this over with.
I know they don't have the total. It's just 239.5 pass or 44.5 rush.
Well, it's touchdown. They might throw it on the red zone just to cut out the overly physical carries. They might throw it down
more than line. 2.5 pass touchdowns.
Oh, so that's a lot.
3 passes. Do you think he'll throw an interception? He's been really good with the turnovers.
No, he doesn't throw interceptions against Patriots.
That's true.
What's James
Cook? He does. They drop them.
They drop. Yeah, he throws them to the Patriots. That J.C. Jackson one, man, is still. They win that game if J.C. Jackson picks that ball off and they get back to the playoffs. The second, whatever. Bill might still be here if J.C. Jackson picks that ball off.
James Cook is 65.5 rush yards, 80.5 total yards.
65.5 rush yards. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I like that one. Then we can throw some other Patriots players in here. Let's see what we got. Hooper, 22.5 receiving yards. Demario Douglas, 34.5 receiving yards. Hunter Henry, 40.5 receiving yards. Hunter Henry touchdown is the demon time, so extra.
What do they have for Stevenson? The one weakness for the Bills this year has been the run defense.
44.5 rush yards.
For Stevenson?
Yeah. Or if you're worried about the whole garbage time, like 59.5 total yards for Stevenson.
Actually, I like that. Yeah. He should get there. Because there's also going to be, they're going to throw a ton of checkdowns and stuff like that. And you might get it on 10, or on 20 touches. It might be 60 yards on 20 touches, but
it's all that matters as long as he gets it. Right. Kayshon Boutte, 24.5 receiving yards.
No. We can do less. We never really go less. That's one I'd probably go less on.
I'm down to do less because again, I think he should just be out of the lineup for Javon Baker at this point. We can go less there. So that's 4. Let's do one more Patriot and then, or we can do one more Bill even. Let's do Bills, and then we'll do our random. We have to do that Saints Packers game as
I
our
think that I'm looking at the schedule right. Oh, Jaguars Raiders is pretty gross.
That's pretty gross too.
Jaguars Raiders might be an objectively grosser game.
That's very fair. Just some other Bills players: Amari Cooper, 35.5 receiving yards; Kincaid, 37.5.
Oh, I'd go Kincaid. I wouldn't touch Cooper because we think Gonzalez is going to be on him. Although I wouldn't be surprised. Like the Cardinals ran that pick play last week to get Gonzalez off Harrison. Now that that's on tape, I would not be surprised if more teams start doing that. And the Bills, that's certainly in their arsenal. I like the more than on Kincaid, though, with what the Patriots safety situation
safety room is like. And then Shakir just is 49.5. But I like Kincaid.
I thought he was going to have an Isaiah McKenzie game. I can go either one there.
Should we just do Kincaid? Let's do Kincaid. Less yards. And then what was
also,
that?
If we do Jaguars Raiders, we get to we've basically just been picking Mac Jones every week.
We've just been doing Chad Ryland or Mac Jones as our sick.
Pretty much, yeah. What do they got for Mac Jones?
Let's look at. Oh no, we did Brian Thomas last week, and he got it because he just force feeds Brian Thomas the ball.
Oh yeah.
Mac Jones is 207.5 pass yards.
How many did we get right last week?
We what?
Did we do our usual 4 or 6 last week?
We did. I think so. I don't know if I still have the screenshot. I know we did Kayshon Boutte more than 17.5 longest reception, and he hit like 16 yards. So we missed that.
Yeah.
I think we missed that one, and then Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, which Taylor gave us. So we marked that up to Taylor. Mac, 207.5 pass yards, 7.5 rush yards, or 216.5 total yards.
What about picks?
They don't have picks yet, unfortunately. We go back to Brian Thomas. Do they have Brian Thomas? They don't have Brian Thomas yet, unfortunately.
Was it 206 yards?
207.5 pass yards.
That Raiders defense isn't like atrocious. Like their problems are on offense more than they're on defense. Not that their defense is good. It's not. They're 9th in the league in pass yards allowed.
So you want to go less?
Yeah. You want to try that?
We can do that. All right, so there's our 6-player lineup. We got the perfect 25 times multiplier, just how we like it. That consists of Drake May, more than 207.5 pass yards. James Cook, more than 65.5 rush yards. Ramondre Stevenson, more than 59.5 total yards. Kayshon Boutte, less than 24.5 receiving yards. Dalton Kincaid, 37.5 receiving yards more than, and Mac Jones, less than 207.5 pass yards. That is, again, the 25-time multiplier bonus. We get our lineup protection, so 5 out of 6 correct picks to get your money back. Use code CLNS if you're a new user on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly after you play $5. If you play $5 on that lineup, you win $125. If you then want to put that $50 that you get instantly on that lineup too, you get $1,250. Some good spending money, holiday cash in your account right there on Prize Picks. So again, use code CLNS for new users. Get $5 or play $5, get $50 instantly. We'll tweet this lineup out Sunday morning so you guys can play along with us. And this is going to be the one. We're going to win this one. We're running out of time to win one, but we will get one. So that is Patriots at Bills. Let's transition over to some college football talk. The college football playoff starts Friday night, right? Indiana Notre Dame in South Bend. Battle Indiana should be an awesome game. Is it still supposed to snow there?
I think it's like flurries. Let's see here.
Okay. That would be awesome to add to the atmosphere.
That would be so cool. So it looks like the precipitation is like 20% all day. So it'll. My guess is it'll be a snowy environment. Oh no, wait, that's today. Yeah, no, all right. It's like 20% all day. So my guess is like you'll at least get like the snow piles on the side of the field and in the stands and stuff like that.
We'll get aura the snow will be vibes. There. Yeah, the aura, the snow aura. So 8:00 on Friday. This would you say this is probably like the least amount of the one game with like the least NFL kind of allure to it if you're looking at it from a prospect point of view?
Yes and no. Notre Dame has some players now. Their top prospect is hurt. He's a corner whose name is escaping me right now.
Ben Morrison, Benjamin
Ben Morrison.
Morrison.
Yeah, so he's out. He's out for the year. I'm pretty sure he's not playing the playoff at all. And yeah, that Indiana team, they have some interesting kind of depth names to know, but I don't know how many top 100 picks on either side of the ball. Notre Dame is a safety, Xavier Watts. And by the way, I put out this morning one player to watch on each team in the college football playoff. So we can do that. And Brian, if you want to play along with yours, but not a ton of top 100 picks in this game.
Yeah. Who'd you have for, did you have more, or you didn't have Morrison? Who'd you have for Notre Dame? Your player to watch.
So for Notre Dame, I had Mitchell Evans, the tight end. And we've talked about, do you find that tight end on day 3, sign him, you bring him in, he's under Henry, replaces Hooper as the second tight end to start the season. And then, in a year or two takes over as the primary tight end, very like old school tight end kind of guy. He's going to play in line. He's going to block his ass off. He's going to win with physicality more than athleticism. But they've made it work with those guys. So, again, projected like mid day 3 pick, exactly where they should be taking a tight end. It doesn't help that like even the prospects Notre Dame has don't line up a ton with the Patriots' needs. So it's sort of by default, but definitely a guy that I could see as a Patriot.
Yep. And then Indiana, did you have their edge rusher? I can't think of his name right now, but he's probably their top
Michael, but it's spelled Mikail, or might be Mikhail Kamara.
Kamara. Yep, that's it.
Second in the nation, leads the nation second.
Is he related to the Kamara from
I don't think so.
Colorado State?
Kamara from Colorado State. But they're very similar players. Like undersized, very strong, high motor edge rushers. Like I had that thought because they play the game incredibly similarly. But what do you do with him? It's tough to say again at his size, but dude gets after the quarterback, plays with a ton of energy. He'll be fun to watch. They have a receiver too, Surratt. I forget his first name. Hang on, I have it right here. Elijah Surratt, who like you look at a bunch of lists of like draft sleepers and his name comes up a ton. Bigger receiver, good body control, catch point. He's slow. And it's just like, yeah, the Patriots don't let another team figure that out. I'm good with that guy here.
Someone else can do that.
Right.
Yeah, I like Kamara as a late round, one of those late round edge rushers. But yeah, he's 6'1", like 265, right? Right around 260. So he's a weird type of body type to put on the edge. But he is quick as hell. Like he can get after the quarterback. Right. So he'll be fun to watch. So that's kind of Indiana, Notre Dame. Are you taking Notre Dame in that one?
I'm taking Notre Dame in that one. Yeah. And I think it's 7.5. I took them to cover too. We saw what Indiana looked like against Ohio State. I think it's the same kind of game.
Yep. All right. Then Saturday, we have 3 games starting off at noon. SMU at Penn State. Obviously, Abdul Carter, the big name to watch on that Penn State defense. We've talked a lot about him, potential or probably locked into the top 10 top edge rusher in this class. So any thoughts on Abdul Carter, or who are your other prospects you're watching? I know Penn State has some good players in that game.
Well, the big question for Abdul Carter is defending the run. And when you look at their path against an SMU team that runs the ball well, and then they win, it's Genty and Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl next week. Like, what a great opportunity for him to prove himself. And in this area, that's a weakness for him. So that's what I'm the most excited about for Carter. I expect him to take over this game against SMU. That line isn't great. Kevin Jennings is pretty elusive, but Carter's athleticism, I think, negates that. I'm expecting him to have a good game in this one. I'm expecting him a dominant game in this one. And then it'll be interesting to see what he does against Boise State, specifically against the run game.
Yep. And then Penn State, Tyler Warren's a tight end we talked a lot
Tyler
about.
Warren's another good one.
That's going to be probably your second pick. Maybe you have to trade up even from, in the second round to get him. So, but he's a really fun, kind of versatile tight end. Their quarterback, Drew Aller, is going back to school. So, he can't make a late surge.
Shocker.
Kind of for a quarterback needy team.
Yeah.
That's something else we always talk about. Like these playoffs are set up where someone can really, take their draft stock and, really skyrocket it. So, not going to be Drew Aller. He's going back to school, but I don't think many other big guys for Penn State, right? They have, their running back's pretty good, but he's probably a day 3 guy.
I think he's one of the higher ranked running backs. Wow, Tyler Warren's all the way up to 12 on the consensus big board.
Really high, yeah.
That's for a tight end. That's nuts. Hang on, I'm trying to find their list here. No, but I think that's pretty much it for them. They got a couple underclassmen, like guys we'll talk about next year. Nick Singleton could sneak into day 2, but that's pretty much it for them. I'll give you one for SMU. It's an interesting player. It's Elijah Roberts. So first off, he's a Miami transfer, so he has a previous relationship with Alonzo Highsmith, who's obviously in the Pats front office and advisor there. Really, so he's listed at was he 6'2",
edge rusher, right?
3. Yeah. So I want to find the height and make sure I get that right. But most places have him listed at 6'4", 295. College Football Reference has him at 270. Everybody else has him at 295. So maybe he lost weight, but he looks like he's in the 290s. But they stand him up and rush him off the edge like a linebacker. And he has, I think he's 4th in the nation in pressures among Power 5 guys. Another guy that plays with a high motor. And you'd think, all right, this big stout guy that's playing on the edge, he's going to be a force kind of in the ground game. He's a pure pass rusher. Like, he's not good against the run. So you have this really interesting tweener. Kind of reminds me of Byron Cowart, where Byron Cowart was caught in between. And do you put on 10 pounds and become an early down end and then rush from the interior, pass rush from the interior on third downs? Or do you take off 15, 20 pounds, stand up, become an edge rusher? Cowart, and this decision was made before he got to the NFL, so it's a little different. It's really interesting if you listen to Byron Cowart talk about his time at going to Florida. Was it Florida State? And why that may have been a mistake for him.
Yeah.
He wanted to play outside linebacker. They turned him into a defensive lineman, and he lost his explosiveness. Meanwhile, he's still in the league. It was Auburn. It was Auburn where he did that. But kind of that same thing where, like, all right, this guy's like 290 and he's standing up. Are we going to trim him down so he can play standing up in the NFL and just make him like a dedicated pass rusher? Or does he put on 15 pounds? You hope he gets better against the run and he becomes, either a quick end or an interior pass rusher or something like that.
Yeah. I just looked it up. He was among edge rushers and interior defenders. He was 7th with 55 pressures this year. Kamara, who we were just talking about, was tied.
Kamara's just ahead of him, right?
He was tied for 2nd with BC's Donovan Ezeraki with 61 total pressures. So they're both up there. And then Abdul Carter was 10th with 51 pressures. So a lot of edge rushers. So
my list today was like half edge rushers.
And we'll talk.
Didn't even get a wide receiver on there.
There's not many.
Most of the top receivers are not in the playoff. Texas has a couple guys, but
I was going to say Bond. Like, that's probably the top guy, right? Isaiah Bond.
I think it's Bond. Ibuka, Bond, and then Oregon. It's Oregon that has a couple guys, and that's pretty much it for the top 100. But when you talk about Oregon, you're talking about Josh Connerly, tackle. I would say Josh Connerly's much more of a name to know for the Patriots than either of the Oregon receivers. Same thing for Kelvin Banks at Texas. Egbuka, you could make the argument. Ohio State's weird if you want to just jump to this game here, Brian, as we're kind of jumping around. Ohio State's weird because, like, when I looked at Ohio State and it was like, what player – because I made myself stick – I could have done 30 players. I'm like, I'm going to stick to one player per team so I don't spend a month writing this. And it's like, Who do you take from
after
Ohio State?
when we go into next round, do we get a new article with different players this time?
So what I think I'm going to do is when we get to the final four, I'm going to do like 20 players in the final. Because I used to do like 20 players in the college football playoff when it was 4 teams. So I'll probably reset. Because I included the teams that have buys. So, but when I got to Ohio State, it's like, who do you pick? Because it's not just they have so much talent, and they probably have more talent in this draft, I would say, than any team in the country. I don't think there's a team that has the bulk amount of like true upside talent that Ohio State has, but it's also guys that fit the needs for the Patriots, right? Emeka Egbuka, they need a receiver. Both of the edge guys, Jack Sawyer, I always butcher it. Tui Malau, I think it is JT Tui Malau, fits.
Yeah.
Both running backs, fits. Both corners, scares me, but fits. Lathan Rantham, their safety, a fit. You could argue Will Howard, if they're going to do the we draft a quarterback every year kind of thing, stylistically fit. Seth McLaughlin, they need a center, fit. Like, it's half that team could be Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised if they take more than one guy from Ohio State this year. So I went with Jack Sawyer because I was going to go with the edge guys. I think that they are pound for pound make the most sense for the Patriots. And I went with him over JTT because stylistically he's a little bit better of a fit. And I like that he's kind of an a-hole on the field, and they need that edge, that anger to them. But like, blindfold yourself, throw a dart at the Ohio State roster. You'll find a guy who realistically could be a Patriot.
Even like Josh Simmons, he's not playing because he's hurt, but like, there you go. There's another left tackle.
If Josh Simmons was healthy, I probably would have gone with Josh Simmons, but he's not playing, so he's not in the playoff.
Yeah. So they have, as you said, a ton of talent. Even you mentioned the corners on day 3, Denzel Burke and Davison. Igbuson? How do you say his last name? Igbinosun. Like, scary players because they're hit or miss, as some of those Ohio State corners are, but maybe they have a good playoff and kind of push themselves up the board. I'm most excited for this game, I think, just to see how Ohio State plays, because they get embarrassed by Michigan. It's Ryan Day. They have the talent to win it all, but are they just going to kind of pack it in, or will they punch back? And you'll probably be able to tell within the first couple series like how they're going to play. So I'm excited to see that one against Tennessee.
The meme. Oh yeah. Sorry, the meme people use of like Jimmy Garoppolo jogging onto the field in Super Bowl 2019.
That's just the
Ryan
whole
Day.
Ohio State team.
It's a whole lot, but it's really Ryan Day. To everything you just said, you get embarrassed by Michigan. You calls for jobs left and right. You have Tennessee, an SEC South team coming up to a freezing cold Ohio Stadium, right? You have that home field advantage in the playoff. You should be pissed to all hell, all of that. If they don't respond, that's that. Like, Ryan Day can't do it. If they don't win this game, Ryan Day's never going to win a national championship. He might never beat Michigan again. Like, this is for Ryan Day on the line. Ohio State should win this game. I'm sticking with my preseason pick of Ohio State. I hate that I'm doing it because Oregon's going to win the national championship. But I said Ohio State had the talent to win in spite of Ryan Day. They're still the most talented team in this tournament. I still think they are.
Yep.
In terms of the roster, the coaching staff, not so much. Especially if Brian Hartline's finally taking interviews, which is when it's bad.
Is he
if
really?
Ohio State loses Brian Hartline, I thought I saw that he took one interview.
Wow, that's
a couple of weeks ago. Let me look.
What will life be like if we don't have people asking us, can they interview Brian Hartline for wide receiver coach if he takes another job? Or we'll probably still be getting asked.
I mean, the fact that no NFL team has thrown a bag at him. He interviewed at West Virginia.
West Virginia?
Yeah. My guess would be...
OC?
No, head coach.
Oh. Interesting.
My guess would be that West Virginia can't give him the setup that he wants.
Yeah.
Right. Probably. He's not going to go unless it's a perfect setup. But yeah, when Ohio State loses Brian Hartline, that's that. They're at that point now, you're just red Northwestern.
They lost a receiver in the portal to Wisconsin today. So that's how you know Ohio State could be going down bad. Now it's like a 4-year guy who barely plays for them, but you don't lose wide receivers to Wisconsin if you're Ohio State. So
that's it. They couldn't figure out the highest wide receiver recruit they ever had before Julian Fleming.
Yeah. So
Or no, before it is Julian Fleming. Who's
Marv?
No, the guy they have now.
Oh, Ryan. No,
Jeremiah
Smith,
Alabama. Jeremiah Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how Ohio State looks. On the other side, Tennessee, it's really James Pierce, just another edge rusher. He was right in there with the top 10 with those rest of those guys. He was 8th in the nation with 53 pressures this year. He's kind of been from the pre-draft process, when people come out with their way too early big boards like a week after the NFL draft, he was the guy who could be up there and you'd see in the top 5, and now you kind of see him sprinkled in the later first round. Like, where are you kind of at with James Pierce here entering the college football playoff?
Are you willing to use a first round pick on a guy that's situational? With his build and his play strength, I don't think he's ever going to be a 3-down player. Now, he's an excellent pass rusher. On pass rush talent, he is a first rounder. But usually you don't use a first round pick on a situational player, on a guy that's only going to be on the field 45, 50% of the time. The Patriots are not in position to make that kind of pick, certainly not without trading down significantly. If this was 10 years ago and they're picking in the mid-20s, yeah, it'd be a little more justified. I still we'll see. Again, you talk about how guys can grow their draft stock in this, and where Tennessee's at. Ohio State likes to run the ball, good run team. Oregon likes to run the ball, good run team. Probably not, but you might get Arizona State in a semifinal. He's going to have a chance to show what he can do as a run defender. But I don't think he makes sense for the Patriots. I had him as my player to watch because he's one of these top edge rushers. There is one other guy, though, I will say, don't sleep on Dylan Sampson. We know they might need a running back, and for what they've the way they've used backs the last few years, it's no more that early down, third down back, right? We're going to throw this guy the ball. This guy's going to run between the tackles. It's everybody does a little bit of everything. Tennessee had one of the lowest pass rates in the nation this year. That offense is built around Dylan Sampson. He does everything for them. Projected day 3 pick. He is a very logical Patriots target if they want a running back.
All right. And then last game, we'll go back. That's at 8:00 Saturday. So we'll go back.
Yeah.
4:00, Clemson, Texas. Hopefully Kelvin Banks is good to go with that ankle injury.
The reporting right now is he plans to play. So.
It seems like it because he sat out of the SEC championship game. So he's had some time here to recover. So obviously one of the top potential left tackles in this draft. He's also someone that there's been talks maybe moving. He's best moved back inside to guard. So we'll see with Kelvin Banks. Thoughts on him, or who else are we looking at in Clemson at Texas?
So Kelvin Banks is that thing, what does he look like against top talent? His worst game of the year is against Michael Williams, who's a top 10 pick pass rusher from Georgia. Michael Williams gave him the business. He's got to put good tape out against a quality opponent. Clemson, they don't have one dominant edge rusher, but they kind of scheme it up to get to the quarterback. I think Clemson is a good test for him. And then if they can get by Clemson, Arizona State, not so much defensively, but then you get Oregon, Ohio State, or Tennessee. You're going to get 3 really good pass rushes. One of 3 really good pass rushes in the semifinal if Texas gets there. And then who knows what happens in the championship. Maybe he gets his rematch with Michael Williams. It's a best case scenario for him. I don't know if it's best case scenario for Texas because I don't think they're beating Georgia, but it's best case scenario for him. But that's, it's all about marquee matchups for him. Elsewhere with Texas, you're looking at Isaiah Bond, who we already talked about, who's their receiver. Gunnar Helm has shot right up draft boards. He's Texas tight end. He might even be entering the range where he's a little rich for them to take a tight end, but I like him. Really good, well-rounded player at that position. Good blocker, which matters. Jake Majors is their center. Center's a sneaky need. I had Georgia's center, whose name is escaping me right now. because I've just been doing names all day. Jared Wilson as my player to watch for Georgia, even with all their other talent. And Andrew Makuba, their safety, is a good player to know. So
he flies
a
around.
couple guys there. He flies around. He's a guy that would be a good fit. Maybe he can give them some help over the top. Clemson, I have one guy for Clemson that I've really kind of circled as a guy I like for them. It's Clemson. They have a couple NFL caliber players. Blake Miller, their tackle, is kind of, you want to double up. Jake Brenningstool is a tight end. I know some people like. Phil Maffa, their running back, is good. He could certainly be in play for the Patriots. But I look at Barrett Carter, their off-ball linebacker. Name something you're going to ask a linebacker to do in an NFL defense. Name an assignment a linebacker might do at the NFL level. And Barrett Carter's done it for Clemson. He rushes the passer. He flies downhill against the run. He sets the edge. He covers. I don't know how much of a downhill player he is at the NFL. He's not one of these small linebackers. He's not like Marte Mapu. He's a little undersized for their defense. He's 6'1", 230. But that's certainly capable. He moves really well at that size. So he's the perfect complement to me to Juwan Bentley, where Juwan Bentley's going to come downhill and be that guy. You're not going to have Carter meet a guard in a hole, but can he come out to the edge and use his athleticism to stretch a runner out on the edge on an outside run? He can do that. He can cover. Again, he has that athleticism where he's not the cleanest pass rusher, but he's going to be able to, if he's your kind of setup guy and you have Keon White or whoever, Christian Barmore, cleaning it up on the back end, he can be a presence as a secondary rusher. So he can do a lot of different things. He's not quite the same player as Mack Wilson. He's a little bit bigger, more physical. He's just as explosive. Maybe doesn't have the outright foot speed, but for what they need at linebacker, the way they've been exposed at linebacker this year, to me, Barrett Carter, who's a projected second-round pick, by the way, is like the guy that answers a lot of those questions that were left open, especially the ones that, some of it we just know, all right, Juwan Bentley's going to come back, fix this, but he's not going to fix all of it. They missed Mack Wilson this year. Barrett Carter, to me, would be a way to maybe address some of those other shortcomings at that position.
Yeah, he fits that mold that would probably play nicely next to Juwan Bentley. So he's an interesting one. To watch. One guy you didn't mention on Texas, are we going to talk at all about Cameron Williams, their right tackle, or are you seeing right tackle and you're saying we're out?
I mean, you know how I feel about that. Now, look, if Caden Wallace comes in and isn't good, maybe, but Cameron Williams is going to be a first-round pick, and if they're going to use a first-round pick on a tackle, it should be a left tackle. I just wouldn't use a first-round pick on a right tackle. You can get that in free agency. So, I mean, yeah, he's a name to know. I guess that's maybe a little short-sighted to me. He's a name to know. But if they're going to take a tackle in the first round, it should be a left tackle. It should be Kelvin Banks. Or Will Campbell, really. But, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Banks is the one to watch in that matchup. So, those are the 4 games. Anything else from those that you're looking forward to? I mean, we're looking forward to all of them. But any other notes or takes you want to get off before they unfold?
Just real quick here. Give me Indiana, Penn State, Texas.
Indiana.
Or sorry, give me Notre Dame. Sorry, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Ohio State. I'm taking all the home teams in the first round. Give me Georgia over Notre Dame, Boise over Penn State, Texas over Arizona. Ohio State's my pick. This is probably the national championship game if it happens, but give me Ohio State over Oregon. Ohio State, Texas, I'll take. I have to pick Ohio State. I said they're going to win, so I'm kind of handcuffed into that. Ohio State over Texas. Georgia over Penn State. Georgia and Ohio State in the championship. And like I said, Ohio State is the most talented roster in this thing. I'm going with the talent.
Trust in Ryan Day.
I'm not. It is in spite of Ryan Day. It is, and he is going to get circles coached around him when he gets to Dan Lanning. I think that defense, they gave Dylan Gabriel enough trouble in Autzen earlier this year. It's really hard to beat a team twice in one season. I know Georgia just did it to Texas, but it's really hard to beat a team twice in one season on a neutral field. I think the talent overcomes the talent gap overcomes the coaching gap. Ohio State beats Oregon. I say this like I know Oregon's going to win the whole thing, but I'm sticking with my preseason pick of Ohio State. You see how I cover my take there? I cover my basis there.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Excuse me.
Like my official pick, you can tell me I'm wrong for picking Ohio State, but like I'm knocking my own take for picking Ohio State.
You're like, this is stupid to do, but I'm gonna do it. Just
exactly because if Ohio State wins, I get to say I was right starting in August.
I respect it. Like if you pick someone in August and your team is still in it, you got to ride with them. You got to stick with them and go with them till the end.
Now, if I was Ohio State, I would have fired Ryan Day and had Belichick coach this thing on 2 weeks' notice the second I found out he wanted to do college football. But
there you go.
It's unfortunately going to be Ryan Day.
I don't know if we can get this in a 12-team bracket, but it would be so cool if there's some sort of like March Madness-esque run. You know, maybe it's like a Boise State or an Arizona State if they just win 2 games, right? Like that would be really cool if one of these teams could kind of go on a run because I don't know.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I don't know, like if you can look at one of the teams in the first round and be like, oh, like if Ohio State goes on a run, like they're Ohio State, they have all the talent,
right?
But
I think when you talk about like that Cinderella team going on like an unexpected run in this format, that starts with the conference championships. Like if you factor in, because think about it, Arizona State was not guaranteed a spot in this thing.
So they're already in their run.
Right. So like you talk about, if you want to talk about a team having that kind of run and you're going to do it, I mean, for it to happen, you go back retroactively. That story doesn't start, especially with them having a bye. Like it's weird. It starts with, well, they beat Iowa State in what was an upset to punch their ticket. Like that's where the run is. I would say, Boise maybe a little bit less. SMU, even though they lost, like, all right, they're able to play Clemson close enough. They have this comeback. They make it close enough that they get, I know they're the 11 seed, but they get what is essentially the final spot, right? You go up to Penn State, you beat like that. To me, if you're telling the story of like an underdog Cinderella in this bracket, in this format, you're factoring in the conference championship.
That's fair. That's a good way to put it. So maybe those teams are in their Cinderella runs, which would be fun. But I'll go. I'm gonna go kind of chalk. It's boring, but the path I think for Oregon and Georgia is just it's there. It's easy. And then I'll go.
You think Oregon arguably has the toughest matchup in the second round, whoever they get.
They do have a tougher path, but I'm a Dan Lanning guy. I'm not a Dylan Gabriel guy, but I'm a Dan Lanning guy. So I'm not an Ohio State guy, but I think they'll beat Tennessee, so that's probably why. And then I'm not a believer. I am very much out on Quinn Ewers in Texas. I do not like Quinn Ewers, so I could even see them. Maybe that's where Arizona State gets a win. So I'll go Oregon from that side, and then Georgia. Even though I don't like Carson Beck, if Carson Beck is even playing, I think their defense, I mean, they should be able to beat Notre Dame or Indiana. And then, you're talking about Boise State or probably Penn State. So I think Georgia can get by. And then I'll go Oregon to win it all. I'll go kind of chalk there, take the 1 seed, but don't like doing it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Oregon over Georgia there. So those are our predictions, players to watch.
I'll say this too. One more thing on that. You talk about the path. A lot of people have said get rid of conference champion first round buys, just give it to the first 4 teams. I think winning your conference still needs to mean something. I think the way you fix it, they should reseed just after the first round, not after the second round.
That'd be fair.
Like Oregon should get so like if Clemson wins, Oregon would get Clemson, right? The lowest remaining seed or SMU, whatever. That's how you fix it. It's not changing the way the buys works. They should reseed after the first round, and then to me, you lock it in from there. And then, from the quarterfinals on in, it's locked. Essentially make that first round on campus. It's supposed to feel like a play-in game. And that's essentially what it becomes if you reseed it. Even more so than it already is.
Yeah, because I get the argument for the buys, right? Because especially how it's set up this year with like Arizona State and Boise State, but it should still mean something to win your conference. But yeah, maybe you reseed it a little so you don't have the number 1 seed Oregon maybe playing the most talented team in the country, Ohio State, round 2, like that, and maybe make that a little bit more fair. So that would be a good maybe change they can do going forward. But those are our previews, some players to watch during those games. Again, that starts Friday night with the Notre Dame game, and then 3 games all day Saturday. 2 NFL games Saturday too. So busy weekend of football. And then obviously Patriots at Bills 4:25. Remember 4:25 start. That got changed on Sunday. And we will be back to recap it all on Monday, most likely. So make sure you're locked into Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications so you do know when we go live and when we are going live. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985dsportshub.com to read more about those prospects and, of course, his Patriots coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage over there as well. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us tonight. Have a wonderful weekend with all the football, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.